You're listening to Rebel Hearts Rising, where we believe your darkest hour holds the key to awakening depth and profound inner wisdom. I'm Tam Burke, and I created this to remind you that when your heart wants to shut down, that's your call to rise, like a phoenix from the ashes. What makes this unique is that every episode is paired with a guided meditation to help awaken your intuition and heal on deeper layers. Together, we'll turn pain into power. What's up, y'all? Welcome to Rebel Hearts Rising. I actually had a different podcast planned for this week, but something happened that I just had to share with you. I'm your host, Tam Burke, and I'm excited to jump in. I got robbed last week, and it is because I stopped meditating. I know that that's a crazy correlation, but let me explain to you. I live in a very gentrifying neighborhood, and even if you don't, you should lock your car doors. And I forgot to lock my car door. And earlier this week, I went to go get in my car, and all of a sudden I sat on a bag of nuts in my front seat. And I'm like, that's weird. That's normally in my glove compartment. And then I noticed that my glove compartment was open and my middle console was open, and actually all my stuff had been rifled through. And I typically keep just a little bit of cash in my car, like $20, just in case I get into emergency. That was gone. The nuts were not taken, which was weird. If you're breaking in, aren't you hungry? Doesn't matter. And how I correlate this to meditation is, I want to be really honest with you guys, and something that I'm even a little bit embarrassed to admit. I stopped meditating for a portion of time. I talked with my mom and some of my close friends about it, and I was just feeling this resistance. I just couldn't meditate. I've always said that meditation is kind of like medication, and it makes my whole life work. It creates this really powerful pause to practice being able to be more intentional in my life. Somehow, by taking a pause to meditate every day, it creates more pauses in my life for me to show up as the woman I know that I am, rather than the woman that I've been conditioned to be. I actually really think about meditation as brain training. I'm training my brain to focus on less, to be really mindful and intentional. And y'all, I know that deep down, I got robbed to give me a little spanking from the universe to say, get back on that meditation. And it's humbling to claim that I'm not doing something that I require all of my clients to do. But I actually think it's really important to take pauses in the things that are working, because sometimes we start to feel the benefit so much that we forget that's what created it. This happened to me as well after the nose surgery that I had this year. I couldn't work out for almost 2 months. Y'all, I had no idea how much anxiety I had if I didn't move my body. And so when we take breaks from things that work for us, we really get to learn how important they are to incorporate in our daily life. So this is going to be one of my shortest podcast episodes yet, because I just wanted to let you know that meditation doesn't have to be challenging. Actually, the way that I teach meditation, and we talked about this in last week's episode with the daily minimum requirements, if you haven't listened, an awesome way to set up a self-care checklist so that you make self-care really tangible and actionable is taking as many breaths as you are old. Now, if you're in your 60s or 70s, that could take a while. And so maybe you start with just the number of breaths that your age starts with. 42, take 4 breaths. And the reason why my clients find this so impactful, and I implemented this after I got broken into last week, just every day I took 35 breaths. Your girl just had her birthday. It's crazy because 35 breaths doesn't take me that long. So I can weave it in while I am sitting passenger seat in the car. I can weave it in while I'm waiting for something to download on my computer. If you work in a corporate environment, it's easy to pull in 35 breaths or however many old you are in between meetings and really have this very deep intentional pause. And it's so strange because this small period of time actually creates so much more intentionality in your life. There's a few parts to this. Number one, remembering to do it brings more intentionality and mindfulness in your life. Number two, the sacred pause, the simple act of counting your breaths is so potent to really bringing all of this external chatter that's going on around us all the time into an energetic potency of kind of one pointed focusness. In today's meditation that is paired with this, we're going to focus on how the breath works. We think of the breath as an inhale and an exhale, but actually when we pay really close attention, we notice the subtle shift between inhale and exhale, like the transition of seasons. We don't go from summer to winter. We have the transitionary experiences of fall and spring. And so we're going to find that in our own breath cycle. I also like to visualize this like as a wave comes pulling in, it starts to crash forward. And you realize that there is actually no ending nor beginning. It's simultaneously floating through. And so we're really going to get to feel this in the meditation. And I'm going to keep the meditation super short, 5 minutes or less, because truthfully, duration does not matter as much as consistency does. So if you meditate once a week for 20 minutes, you're actually better off meditating every day for a minute because of the way that it builds up in your system. Now, I want this to be a warning to you because I needed something like getting my car broken into to shake me awake a little bit, to remind me to come back to my own mindfulness, simple habits like turning off the stove, locking your car. But what's been really interesting is since my car got broken into, I realized, oh, shit, I need to start meditating again. And the way that I've shown up in my daily life, just by simply putting in 35 mindful breaths a day, has been really mind expanding. I found that when I wanted to react to something that Matt did, I actually got to choose my response. It's like it gave me this really powerful, tiny pause to choose differently. It's like it equipped me with the ability to decide to do something differently. And this is something that I've started to realize, we'll probably have a whole nother podcast episode on this, is a lot of us are stuck in loops. We're stuck in loops of conditioning. We're stuck in loops of how we've been raised to be, what our family of origin did, what society expects of us. And because so much is happening in life all the time and it's speeding up with the presence of technology, it's easier to automate some of our behaviors, some of our responses. But the problem that I've found is that sometimes we're not even aware of the things that we've automated. And sometimes we wouldn't choose to automate those things. And I find that this happens most in our day-to-day life. So the people that we're closest with, the people that we respond to regularly, that normally is your family, your friends, your coworkers. And it takes just a little bit more effort to decide how to respond rather than react. And that is where training your brain, bringing in an intentional pause is so powerful. So thanks for being with me here this week. This week's episode is getting pushed to next week. We have an incredible guest, Naomi Tolan, joined us, and she has been in the makeup industry in Hollywood, and she's really worked through a lot of understanding how products affect our hormones, and also how being in an industry that talks about how women should look and improving our look can really bring about a lot of insecurities. But what's even cooler is that we talk about how to enhance your innate beauty. Because also annoying, avoiding the way that we look, not wanting to be vain, is also not claiming our power. And so we have to find the middle way, especially being a woman, in valuing ourselves and valuing our external, knowing that our self-image, how we feel about ourselves, literally creates our life. And also not getting trapped in thinking that how we look affects our life too. And so it really is this kind of yin and yang, the duality approach to seeing how we can elevate ourselves and really fall in love with the way that we look rather than thinking and knowing that we need to be different. So I'm really, really excited for that podcast episode to drop. Thanks for being here with me. And y'all, if this hit home, as always, the biggest thing that you can do for Rebel Hearts Rising is send this to a friend who needs to hear this. Maybe someone who you've noticed feels like they're running around like a chicken with their head cut off, or who has been lying to themselves about not needing to meditate and the benefits. It happens to the best of us. And if we're being honest, we all take breaks. And rather than beating ourselves up for taking breaks, what if instead we moved back into just knowing that we're in a constant flow and evolution? It's time to come back to your meditation practice, y'all. Thanks for being here with me, and I'll see you next week.